Hi, and welcome to the second part of our lecture on border traffic. We're going to talk about migration to start with. Migration of people refers to just the movement of people from place to place. And right now, over 200 million people in the world are migrants, which is actually not that huge. In terms of relative population, that's only about 3 or 4% of the people on Earth. On the map you see in front of you, it's a migration map, net inflows and outflows, and the countries in blue have net inflows of migrants, and you can see that there's some common kind of themes among countries that are net that take in migrants. They're the rich countries, for the most part, the countries of the north of the world, the global north, they say, of Europe, North America, and a few other countries. The countries without a big, a big swing one way or the other are scattered in green throughout the world. And the countries that are net exporters of people, that is, that people migrate away from, tend to be of the global south, of less developed areas. Also areas that are experiencing war, like Syria right now, for instance. Areas that are experiencing climate disasters, like a good deal of Bangladesh, which has had a lot of flooding recently, or areas like Mali, which is undergoing desertification. So there are definitely patterns to this. The difference, the key difference between immigration, well, we really pronounce them fairly similarly, emigration, referring to moving out of a place, and immigration, referring to moving into a place. And migrants are going to be considered both immigrants by their former country and immigrants by their new country at the same time. It just depends on whether somebody's, whether somebody's going or coming to or from your country is what you call them. And even though this little poster in front of us misspells immigrant right there, it gives you the main idea. There are a lot of pull factors, reasons that attract migrants to new places, and a lot of them you're probably familiar with. Economic opportunity. Some countries are known for being economically vibrant, and that changes over time. But that brings people to them. Religious freedom. A lot of early migrants to the United States, as far back as when it was a colony, were interested in religious freedoms. You have political freedoms, which say a lot of countries, including the U.S., a lot of countries in Europe, offer religious freedom of opportunity to people, especially from countries where there's religious persecution going on. You have the idea of family ties. People will move from country to country to be with family that have potentially migrated previously. And so family ties is a reason you see as a big part of second waves of migration. If, say, a first wave moved from one country to another, like, say, from Turkey to Germany, which is a big vector of immigration or a direction that migrants move. If a lot of people moved from Turkey to Germany originally after World War II for economic reasons, now they're increasingly doing so due to family ties. Safety is also a really important pull factor. The countries that are seen as non-violent are very attractive, especially to people coming from violent areas. Opposite and kind of mirror images of the pull factors that pull people to places are the push factors that make people go away from places. People who are more or less forced to flee from places are called refugees. And many millions of people around the world are currently refugees. Again, I think Syria right now is potentially is producing the most refugees because of the civil war and the strife going on there now. Some of the important push factors are very similar flip sides of the pull factors. When there's an economic downturn in an area, it people have to flee it. You thinking of internal migration, the economic downturn that hit, say, Oklahoma during the 1930s in the U.S. It pushed many people west, especially to California. Religious or political oppression. In, say, the Soviet Union, there were waves of people who fled, governments under Stalin, for instance, when Stalin would crack down on religious institutions or oppress, jail, murder his political opponents. War and violence right now, again, going back to Syria because it's so much in the news. A lot of people have fled from there. There are many people, especially around near where I went to college in Minnesota, who fled from violence and chaos and anarchy in East Africa, especially in Somalia. You've got food shortages. Very often you have, especially from the least developed countries, people moving when there's a crop failure, a famine, some kind of blight, and they need to move to eat. You have climate disasters. You have actually a lot of people on a small scale in the U.S. Internally migrating from the Southwest right now, where there's a horrible drought, and it's destroying farms and making water very expensive for a lot of people. So even in your most developed countries, disasters with the climate can push people to have to go to new places. All right, now when we're talking about the U.S. and Latin America, and that's what we're going to be doing our class debate on in a short time. We're talking about the world's largest vector of immigration, meaning this is the pathway that more people, more migrants take than any other pathway in the world. And currently there are over 18 million migrants from Latin America living in the U.S. And these are both naturalized American citizens who were born elsewhere. It includes people who are undocumented, and from coming to the U.S. over the last 20, 30, 40 years from any of the countries in Latin America. Now, about half of the migrants are documented. About half are undocumented or unauthorized. And you're going to run into a lot of different terms for essentially the same thing as we explore this issue in this unit. Unauthorized immigrant, undocumented immigrant, illegal immigrant. Sometimes you'll see illegal alien, and very often the person who uses a term is trying to get their beliefs on the issue of migration across by the term they use. So, for instance, illegal alien, that sounds like the predator coming from outer space to kill me with a ray gun. So you're going to notice that you can understand a lot about people's politics on an issue by the terms they use in the debate. But one important thing when we're debating is to be respectful of all people, and at the same time recognize that a lot of people hold passionate viewpoints on this issue that can be looking at the issue from many different sides. So just something to think about as we move through our discussion and debate of this. And at the bottom you have kind of two different approaches to the issue, and you can probably guess what the people in the march feel and the author of the cartoon as well. All right. Anyway, have a fine evening, and I'll see you in class.